Pastor Doreen Taylor Swift from the Celebration Community Church. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiances.
Please pray with me. God of all creation, we give you thanks for this city and all who call it home. We pray this day for those who lead in every area of government, those who give of their time and energy in service to our community. We pray that they will have wisdom, a willingness to listen, hearts which value the worth of each person, arms open wide to welcome the stranger, and that they will govern with the goal of caring for the most vulnerable among us. May we disagree about issues and beliefs without disparaging each other. May we learn from our past, have hearts of goodwill for today, and live into a future with hope. May it be so, O God. Amen.
Items to be withdrawn from consent.
There we go. We have one item to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. That is M&C 22-1954.
Items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
There are no items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Sorry, Jared. Thanks. Motion passes.
First item is 22-1954, notice of claims for alleged damages or injuries.
And Speaker Council, Thomas Terlancasi.
Mayor Parker, council members, fellow citizens and neighbors, I want to point out in addressing this specific agenda item that I represent the thousands of people who don't have access this morning at 10 a.m. to come and speak out on very important topics. Just one example of how the city has become less accessible during public comments. I wanted to point out specifically under the claims and notice of claims, a couple of things that I and others have addressed for a while. These are often insurance claims, specifically, most commonly accidents. In the water department, a truck hits somebody by accident, and that's a claim that needs to be paid. A number of the claims on the list are police accidents. And on the list that I brought here several times with 37 pages and names of officers, the most common incident that's been investigated is accidents. Some of the accidents are chargeable under that particular list, which means that the officers committed traffic offenses or worse. In one example, an officer drove out of the city, out of his territory, on duty, following someone into the city of Dallas, and I don't know all of the details, but it resulted in the death of a citizen that was not a citizen of the city of Fort Worth, with a lot of liability attached. And so my suggestion on this is, though this is a routine agenda item normally, is separate the police accidents from all the other unfortunate or unexpected accidents by other members of city departments, and tie behaviors by the police to liability. This is part of the broader conversation as to why police officers and the Police Officer Association should be self-insuring.
Speakers Council, I can get a motion. Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Perfect. Thank you. I think you may have to hit Jared's absent. Motion carries.
Next item are the special presentations by council, and the first is presentation of proclamation for the 30th anniversary of Alliance for Children.
I think I'm going to turn to Councilmember Crane, who's going to take care of this presentation. There she is in the back, hiding. Hi, Julie. Come on down. Okay.
How are you? Good. How are you? How are you, sir? Well, it's my honor and privilege to honor Alliance for Children. Julie, not only as a District 3 resident, but also the Alliance for Children's headquarters now is in District 3. But they do a lot of great work for child abuse, and I'll just read this for everybody. It says, whereas Alliance for Children is celebrating 30 years of serving children and families impacted by child abuse in our community, whereas since 1992, Alliance for Children has served over 63,000 children in Tarrant County. Alliance for Children rescues hope, restores trust, and rebuilds lives for children impacted by child abuse in Tarrant County. And whereas in Tarrant County, 6,511 children were confirmed as victims of child abuse or neglect in 2021, Alliance for Children provided trauma-informed services to 2,497 children in 2021. And whereas the mission of Alliance for Children is to protect Tarrant County children from child abuse through teamed investigations, healing services, and community education, and whereas April 2022 is Child Abuse Prevention Month, effective child abuse prevention, investigation, and treatment programs succeed because of partnerships among public and private agencies, schools, religious organizations, medical services, and the business community. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby honor, recognize, and celebrate April 2022 as the 30th anniversary Alliance for Children in the City of Fort Worth. And I don't think it goes beyond any of us that our children are very important, and that making sure that they have healthy environments in which to live are very important. So I'm very excited for all the work that you do and that y'all do as officers and everything too. So I want to present this to you, and
Thank you so much.
yeah. Take a picture. You want to say some remarks? Okay. Yeah. You could say a few words too.
Oh, well then.
Yeah, those are. Yeah. Great. I'll give you the microphone if you don't want.
Oh, that's kind of you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's good to see you. Thank you for doing this. Council, thank you for allowing us. Thank you for walking with us for 30 years. You know, for anyone that's with us today that is not familiar, I just want to briefly acknowledge that, you know, as your Children's Advocacy Center, we are directly involved in the investigation of child abuse cases that rise to the criminal level. You heard in the proclamation that over 6,000 children in Tarrant County were victims of abuse, and 2,500 of those kids walked through our doors, and nearly 1,100 of them called Fort Worth home. They are your tiniest residents that I know from your words and from your actions are important to each of you. I can honestly and excitingly stand before you in partnership with Fort Worth Police Department. Please let me acknowledge our two sergeants over the Crimes Against Children unit that are with us today, Scott McCarthy and Randy Finch, who lead a large team, as you might imagine, to navigate crimes against children investigations in partnership with Child Protective Services, dedicated prosecutors, a medical team, and really on behalf of our board, all of our partners that are back in our center working, thank you for believing us. Thank you for standing with our kids. I am a Fort Worth resident, happy to call Fort Worth home. And as your partner, it is also my hope that we will see a police department that grows in numbers. We are a growing city, And we are a prime example of what a public-private partnership can look like on behalf of victims, and it's a success. And we need to continue to be able to pour in to our kids. And right now, not only are we a growing city, but the number of cases of children that have been victims of criminal-level child abuse continues to grow in our city. So may we continue to be an example to the rest of Tarrant County and the rest of Texas that our kids are important. And that also means staffing a police department that can respond to the needs in a timely manner. So thank you for your vision in that. Thank you for your willingness to have hard conversations and know that we value you and value your support for our kids.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
The next presentation is a presentation of proclamation for Lights Out.
And I believe Councilmember Jared Williams is going to present this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor and fellow colleagues. This is a great honor to be able to present the Lights Out proclamation. We have some amazing lovers of birds and conservation here with me. Chuck Baskin from the Audubon Society. He's the president. Paula Thomas, the conservation chair at the Audubon Society. And then we have Avery Pasek and Michelle Atif, both environmental planners, and also with the Keep Forward Beautiful team, and then also Brenda Garcia. So I'm gonna read this proclamation, and then I'll present it, and then I'll open it up for words from all of y'all. So whereas, let's see here, got the wrong one. Whereas Texas Parks and Wildlife Department finds that approximately 4.4 million Texans are wildlife viewers, including 2.2 million bird watchers who generate $1.8 billion in economic impact for Texas. And whereas birds are important indicators of a healthy environment, Fort Worth seeks to encourage healthy populations of migratory birds throughout the city while mitigating nuisances caused by migratory birds. And whereas Fort Worth is located along a major migratory flyway in which nearly 2 billion birds travel through Texas every spring and fall. This massive migration of birds occurs at night. And whereas light attracts and disorients migrating birds, confusing them and making them vulnerable to collisions with buildings and other urban threats. Fort Worth is joining an international lights out effort by asking residents to turn off non-essential lighting during critical migration periods in the spring and fall from the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And whereas City of Fort Worth staff is working with community partners to complete an application to receive the Bird City designation through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to recognize the many initiatives within the city that protect birds and their habitat. And whereas code compliance works to support neighborhoods experiencing the impacts of rookeries of nesting migratory birds, more information can be found at the Migratory Birds website on the City of Fort Worth website. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and proclaim March 1st, June 15, 2022 as in the City of Fort Worth Lights Out. Thank y'all so much for all of the amazing work that y'all have done, especially with the migratory patterns of egrets. I really want to especially thank our staff for working with our office to develop the operational policy to both address the need to conserve these very important and federally protected birds, and also to address the sometimes devastating impacts that the migratory patterns and rookeries can have on our residents and business owners and property owners. So thank y'all so much for your hard and sometimes complicated work. And I present this proclamation to all of y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Jared.
say anything?
I guess I was elected to say a few words. I just want to make sure that we thank Councilmember Williams for his leadership. He keeps us on our toes. All things environmental, we know when the phone rings, we know what the question's going to be. And I really appreciate my staff and the community stepping up to make this happen, and to also make sure we thank some of the folks that weren't here tonight. And so we've reached out to every building owner and manager of a tall building in Fort Worth. So we appreciate all the businesses and building owners downtown and outside of downtown that are participating and turning the lights down during the migratory periods, which runs the third week in April to the second week in May. So we're right in the middle of all of that. So this is a good time to do that. And then to also thank all of you on council and City Manager David Cook, because we have done a lot of things lately that bring the enterprise together moving forward to be more environmentally friendly as a city. That also protects the birds. So you think about our open space program and the benefit that it will provide: a clean river, clean water, the water wheel program that will have some exciting news coming up in the next 60 to 90 days for you. And then lastly, we're working towards being designated as a bird city USA, and this and other programs will help us get there in the next year. So thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. And Jared, I think you get to stay right there for our next proclamation.
Thank you again, Mayor and fellow teammates.
And this is a presentation or proclamation for the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge.
So we have some more guests for this one. We have Rafe Brock, Keep Fort Worth Beautiful Board President, Don Wheeler, Keep Fort Worth Beautiful Board Member. Then we also have Avery Pasek, Michelle Latif, and Brenda Garcia with the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful team. So again, I'll read this proclamation, and then if we take a picture, and if y'all have any words, please feel free. So this one reads, whereas litter is a problem affecting the beauty and health of communities throughout the state of Texas, impacting our environment by polluting our land and water bodies. Identifying solutions to pollution in Texas bays and the ocean has been a focus of statewide importance, and whereas trash and litter that finds its way into waterways poses a threat to wildlife, the health of local water bodies, our community, residents, and visitors. The cleanup of litter and illegal dumping is a costly expense, with the city of Fort Worth spending over $3 million annually to abate litter and illegal dump sites. And whereas the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge encourages residents, businesses, community groups, and service organizations in the North Central Texas region to engage in fighting the problem of litter through participation in a regional cleanup challenge to be held during the months of March, April, and May of 2022. And whereas the city of Fort Worth is promoting the Spring Clean Initiative, which encourages residents, businesses, schools, and community groups to change the culture around littering by stopping, reporting, and picking up litter that they see. And whereas Keep Fort Worth Beautiful works with residents, businesses, community groups, and service organizations to end littering and provides cleanup supplies for groups working to remove litter from our community. Keep Fort Worth Beautiful hosted a community-wide cleanup on March 26, 2022, called Cowtown Great American Cleanup. And whereas the city of Fort Worth declares its support for the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge regional initiatives and will encourage its residents, businesses, community groups, and service organizations to participate in volunteer-led cleanups with Keep Fort Worth Beautiful, who will upload cleanup results to the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge website and promote North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge campaign. Now, therefore, the city of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and proclaim May 31st, 2022, or May 1 through 31st, 2022 as the North Texas Community Cleanup Challenge in the city of Fort Worth. Congratulations, and thank y'all so much for all of your hard work, not only on this challenge, but even working with our office on the monthly Litter Day with Dr. J. So thank y'all so much. I'm so proud of all the amazing work y'all do to keep our community clean and beautiful. Thank y'all, congrats. Would y'all like to say a few words?
Okay, I've been elected again. This will be even quicker than the last time. I do want to make sure that we're trying to make litter cleanup fun. And so my staff, Avery and Michelle and Brenda, they put together a the March Madness where you had your brackets and the departments competed on who was going to win the March Madness trophy. And I will tell you that the city manager's office and the city council's aides up there were one of the most active groups. In fact, they were, in the fight all the way to the end. But at the end of the day, as painful as this is for me to say, it was Letitia Brown and the lawyers and the support staff that brought it home. They collected over 16,000 pounds of litter, and that's just amazing for such a small department to do that. So thank you for your contributions, and thank you to all the departments for helping out on that. The other is, we'll have an IR coming to you, but I'll give you just a kind of a teaser here. The Great Cowtown cleanup was not too long ago. We had almost 4,100 volunteers, and they removed over 50 tons of trash. So we're getting it done, and there's more to come. We're working on litter alerts. Every time we know a windstorm's coming, to put out a litter alert, make people more aware that the majority of litter in Fort Worth comes from wind events, from uncovered trash, and trash that is laying about a road that ultimately blow into our rivers. And then lastly, I want to make sure that everybody, give this opportunity to kind of plug that everybody has the opportunity to help us clean up litter. You can go to our website, you can give us a call. We'll provide you with free gloves, free tongs, free bags, free support, and a free pat on the back. And so thank all of you for your support, and most certainly thank Keep Fort Worth Beautiful and everybody else. And just to remind you, we won the first North Texas Council of Government Litter Challenge in the fall, and we plan on winning it again this spring.
Next are the upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
I'm going to kick this one off with a recognition to bring Robert Stearns down and the Economic Development team. And a huge kudos to them for receiving the Dallas Business Journal 2022 Best Real Estate Deal. There comes Robert and team. Good morning.
Morning, thank you, Mayor, appreciate it. I'm a little sensitive with this award because it's glass, and I don't want to break it before we get it back over to the Kempton folks. But again, last Wednesday, the Dallas Business Journal held their 30th annual Best Real Estate Awards of the year. So this is kind of like the Academy Awards of real estate for the Metroplex. It's more like the Golden Globes. It's a little more boozy, a little more relaxed. But Fort Worth actually did very good in the award categories. There were 18 categories. There were about 50 projects that were up for awards. And believe it or not, Fort Worth doesn't always necessarily get recognition from our partners to these. So it was very nice to see the number of projects that Fort Worth had in the mix. But in particular, Fort Worth had 2 projects that the team worked on. The Deco 969 residential development downtown Fort Worth, which is under construction right now. And the one that we actually won for, the Kempton Harbor Hotel, 714 Main Street. So this is the adaptive reuse of the 24-story Transport Life building. You all didn't know this is the former XTO headquarters into the 232-room Kempton Harbor Hotel. $56 million investment done by Development Services Group. And while economic development is a team sport, I do specifically want to recognize Michael Hennig, who was the project manager for that development, and all his hard work he's done for the department. So here's our award that we will be getting back to the Kempton as soon as we leave here today. Again, Councilmember Beck, this is in your district. So I want to recognize the team for all the hard work that they've done.
Thank you very much, Robert. Congratulations. We're here.
Liz, do you want to come down?
Okay, now I'll turn to council members. Our first council member with announcements is Carlos Flores.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, we get the slideshow up, please.
I don't think we have any pictures, Carlos. Oh, can you describe for us?
Stockyards, April 16th. They had their Easter egg celebration there. All the vendors in Mule Alley and the Stockyards Exchange had participating things going on. Giveaways to the kids, candy-filled eggs, prize-filled eggs. So appreciate that. A lot of families showed up. My family showed up, and we also promoted the PBR that's coming up at Dickies Arena, the World Finals for May 13th through the 22nd. And as you say, Mayor, hey, what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas. Fort Worth is very fortunate to have PBR here in town. The next thing, I want to give kudos to the Transportation and Public Works folks, Raj and also William Johnson, for coming to the Stockyards Business Association meeting. We had a good turnout at that meeting, and the purpose of us being there, along with the Northwest Division Commander and police officers, were to hear directly from the stakeholders there and get input when it comes to traffic patterns, other traffic issues that are manifesting themselves with the great success that Stockyards is enjoying. And then the last thing was something that I posted about back on April 22nd. We have two individuals from the North Side who are competing in Korea as part of the USA Taekwondo national team, AJ Munoz and Michael. Actually, they're engaged. So they competed over there, and I'm still waiting to get the results. Can't seem to get a hold of them, but I'm sure they did well. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Bivens.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of being with Mr. Vester Owens, shown here besides his birthday cake. He went to Normandy. He's a World War II veteran. Talks about fighting in spite of neck-high water. And he was celebrated at the Martin Luther King Community Center this weekend. You can go to the next slide. When you entered the gym, you had no idea that you were in a community center. It was decorated as if it was a hotel, if you will. I took too many pictures of police, so you see Aldridge there twice. But there was a table just for police because the veteran and the entire audience there wanted it known that they backed the blue. Next slide. Before then, I got a chance to hang out with the Chris Howe Foundation, and this foundation came to prominence for me when COVID launched, because he is the guy who had all of these events feeding people all over Dallas when COVID first struck. And he brought a class of financial literacy to Dunbar High School this weekend, and we'll be doing more things in partnership with this foundation. I'm not sure about the history, but I just know he's very, very effective. And so I was glad that they came to my alma mater. I am a Wildcat. Pastor Michael Moore wishes he was.
I was half a Wildcat.
But it was a fun time had by all. And I got a chance to ask the audience, did they learn anything? And so who knows, we may be able to squeeze the life out of these payday lenders with this education continuing to come. And that was my weekend.
Thank you, Gina. Councilmember Firestone.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to share really a very exciting groundbreaking up north in the Alliance area, and this was the groundbreaking of MB Materials, and we had a great morning up there with a number of dignitaries, including the mayor and David Cook on April 21st. And just so everybody knows, this is a really dramatic development, economic development for the city. MP Materials is a rare earth magnetics facility that is the first of its kind in the United States. They're making a $700 million investment over the next 2 years and will fully restore the U.S. in the rare earth supply chain. Rare earth magnetics are critical inputs to electric motors and generators that enable the functionality of electric vehicles, robots, drones, wind turbines, defense systems, and many other high-tech, high-growth technologies. So this was fantastic. I was able to visit with the founders of MP Materials. There were other dignitaries there. Representative Kraus was there. We had Congressional Michael Burgess and Congressman Mark Veazey, Ross Perot Jr. and the Hillwood team were there as well. And a fun thing that they put together was after the groundbreaking, we were able to mark our hands and provide a signature in concrete that will be there at the facility for a long time to come. So that was pretty neat. They're bringing 150 jobs to Fort Worth, and there is going to be so much economic development around this company and around all of the technologies that they are going to enable. It's really pretty exceptional for our city. So congratulations to our team. Robert Stearns and the economic development team worked very hard on this, and this is just a really big deal for our city and great news. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Councilmember Nettles?
Thank you. This first event, I had opportunity to participate with the education event with Stu Body Fitness, and we talked about violence in the community. It was at the Black Doc Bookshop. Also, they was honoring Nipsey Hussle and a couple of things. We had one of the comedians, Michael Collier, was in town doing comedy at the comedy club in Arlington, so I was glad to have him there. Next slide. I had the opportunity to do Legislative Power Hour with the Fort Worth Chamber. It was a great event. They had a lot of questions, and Michael Crane was also there supporting the event. We had a great opportunity to speak with the people, talked about the bond and other cases that was coming up for the city of Fort Worth. Next slide, please. YWLA Service Day with Opal Leaf Forum. Councilman Beck's daughter actually invited and told me about this event because it was in the district. And so I got an opportunity to go out there and hang out with them. And we planted, what was that we planted? Cantaloupe. Yes, I don't eat it, but I planted it. And so I was excited about that.
Did Chris?
I don't eat anything
I didn't think
that
so.
you plant. Probably. Yeah. Next slide, please. I had an opportunity to go to the Interfaith event, Justice Through Compassion. It was very interesting. Just a reminder of holy ground. When I got there, and it was like, take your shoes. And I was like, what? I said, okay. So took my shoes off, and we prayed, and we talked about faith in the community and how we can coincide with each other. It was a great event. It was a lot of different pastors and other community leaders there. The next slide was a very interesting meeting. It was the bond election meeting in District 8. They kind of packed the room out. I think you said we had the biggest group. Had we still succeeded that? Okay, great. It was the biggest, but they were the loudest as well. They had a lot of concerns, and so that meeting has drawn us to do another meeting about issues in District 8. And so we're excited that we was able to talk about the bond election that's taking place right now. Next slide, please. I had the opportunity Saturday out of 4 events, visit the Southside Community Garden event. This is one of the events that they started about a year ago, bringing fresh produce in the 76104 district. What they do is they take gardens where they take 2x4s and they build the garden in the backyard, and they teach you how to plant. And so with 76104 being the lowest life expectancy in all of Texas, we wanted to make sure that we bring produce to the neighborhood. And so they have been doing great. They received a grant here recently. And so I ask all of you, if you haven't supported the Southside Community Garden, it is a great nonprofit to support. And so thank you. I think those are my last slides.
Councilwoman Beck?
Sure.
So it is festival season in District 9. We had Arts Goggle back this past Saturday after a 2-year hiatus, and it was really great to see everybody down in the near south side walking the streets and supporting some local vendors. I want to draw your attention to that middle picture. So that is some Ryan Place residents, and they make some of the best smelling candles I've smelled in a while. Ryan House Candles, they even named it after the neighborhood. So it was great to see local folks out there doing their thing. Next slide. This Sunday, we have the Parkway dedication for Ward Parkway in Berkeley Place. It's a really great community effort to beautify their neighborhood. Next slide. So I hope you will all join me at Trinity Park for some confetti eggs and corn dogs and rides and art. Next slide. Fairmount Home Tour, again, back after a little break. Mother's Day weekend, you'll get to see 6 homes and one that is in the process of being revamped. I'd encourage you all to come, bring your moms. It's a great way to experience some of Fort Worth's history in one of our oldest neighborhoods. Next slide. We will be having the Carry the Load event for Memorial Day, May 28th at it starts at University and it goes down. It will end at our Police and Firefighters Memorial. And so I hope that you will choose to either donate or participate in this event that really draws attention to those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And then I will head down to the bottom mic because I've got a couple folks here I'd like to acknowledge. So it's no surprise to anyone in this room that I like to talk trash, but today we're going to talk a little bit different trash. In honor of Earth Day that was this past Friday, I wanted to recognize some District 9 residents who really go above and beyond to make sure that we are taking care of our city. And so the first person I'd like to call up here is Mr. George Childs. Many of you know Mr. Childs. He joins us most weeks here on council, but I would like to recognize Mr. Childs for his commitment to litter cleanup in his neighborhood. Come on up, I don't bite. Mr. Childs has consistently been and continues to be a steward of both the South Hemphill Heights and the Jones May St. Louis neighborhoods. For years, Mr. Childs has organized neighbors to help them clean up alleys near his home. They cut back vegetation, collect and bag litter, and other items that are left in the alleyways. Upon completion, Mr. Childs and team leaves everything to be collected by Fort Worth City staff. Mr. Childs' pride in his neighborhood and willingness to keep it clean, safe, and beautiful is a shining example of the type of residents that make Fort Worth a better place to live. So thank you so much, Mr. Childs. I know. Yeah. Do you want to say anything? Sure.
If nobody throws it down, nobody's going to have to pick it up.
Real quick, George. That looks great. Oh, sure. Next up, I have Mr. Don Wheeler. Come on down for the second time today. I hereby recognize Mr. Don Wheeler for his commitment to keeping his neighborhood beautiful. Mr. Wheeler can be found in Kellis Park daily, walking his dog with a trash grabber and trash bag in tow. Each evening, Mr. Wheeler picks up litter along his route throughout the park. Not only does Mr. Wheeler pick up litter, but has served as an example for other neighbors who have taken up the cleanup charge because of Mr. Wheeler. He has teamed up with Keep Fort Worth Beautiful to keep a stockpile of supplies that he regularly distributes to residents interested in joining him. He continues to set a great example for his neighbors by keeping the park free of trash and investing in the quality of the park near his home. Residents like Mr. Wheeler are what keep our neighborhoods clean, safe, and looking beautiful. Thank you, Don. And Mr. Perry could not be here today because he is at work, but I wanted to go ahead and recognize him as well. Justin Perry is the founder of the Tiny Trash Truck Project. It's his commitment to litter cleanup, both locally in the Fairmount neighborhood and throughout Fort Worth, throughout the Fort Worth, Dallas Metroplex. When Mr. Perry is not working, he is seen regularly with a trash grabber in one hand and his tiny trash truck in the other on the streets of Fort Worth and our parks and along the Trinity River. These trucks are built on a flat wagon base and have been creatively designed to look like mini garbage collection trucks, and they are easily maneuvered throughout the streets. You can't help but smile during a tiny trash truck encounter. People like Mr. Perry and his tiny trash truck are what keep our neighborhoods clean, safe, and looking beautiful, and spark interest in the community around him. So he will be receiving this later today. And last but not least, and this might have been my favorite one to write, and you'll have to indulge my love of pirate talk, I'd like to ask Alex McMartin to come on down and join me. Alex is a member of the Fairmount Trash Pirates, so get ready to groan. Avast, I hereby present this letter of marque, or certificate of recognition, to the Fairmount Trash Pirates, granting them the ability to plunder any bounty, litter, throughout the city of Fort Worth on site. These mateys noticed an increase of trash on the high streets of their neighborhood and decided to turn that litter into loot. The Fairmount Trash Pirates formed a union of trash pillaging buccaneers to go on account collecting litter throughout the city of Fort Worth. They give no quarter to waste in their community and spend their free time cleaning up after the scallywags that litter the streets. Having successfully walked the neighborhood and taken to the high seas or the Trinity River, they have collected a hefty bounty, 1,039 pounds of trash from the streets and waterways in 2021 alone. It's groups like this that keep our neighborhoods safe, clean, and beautiful. Thank you so much, Alex.
The next item is council proposal, CP-321, fee waiver to use certain streets, including University Drive and use of Trinity Park, including the pavilion in Trinity Park near the Police and Fire Memorial for the Carry the Load event on May 28, 2022.
Oh, there we go. I know a few council members want to speak. We also want to recognize former council member Zim Zimmerman, who's here on behalf of Carry the Load. Zim, thank you so much for coming today. It was great to see you, and you're welcome to grace us with a few words if you'd like to about how important this event is to Fort Worth. While he's coming to the microphone, I've got a few. Did Gina want to speak? Go ahead, Gina.
I just want to say hello to my buddy Zim, and thank you for all of your work while serving on the council, but also for being a champion for this event, and not just this event, but all those that honor the contributions that veterans have made. And of course, your work at Lockheed, keeping us safe. And so it's good to see you. Tell Mac I said hi, and I'll see you for a drink.
Well, it's good to be seen at my age, so my wife would point out to you on a number of occasions I've flunked retirement. I've done it again. Carry the Load, I've been involved with it since its inception in Fort Worth. It was created by two Marines over in Dallas, and it's become a national event. We started out with two teams, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast, that walked all the way from Seattle on the West Coast and DC on the East Coast down to Dallas to spend Sunday and Monday of Memorial Day weekend, where thousands of people gather to celebrate those that served our country and to help provide for funds to help those that have suffered. And it's really great. There's another one that's called Towers to Tunnels, which is doing an excellent job also. I want to thank Elizabeth for sponsoring this. We will start off, as she mentioned, at TCU in Lot 6 at about 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. We will come down University and then onto the Riverwalk to the memorial service, where we'll have a brief ceremony. We would like to see anybody that wants to join us come to Lot 6. We will have transportation to get them back to Lot 6 after the program is over. Elizabeth will be speaking to us as a retired vet, and we'll have some other things going on, and we look forward to anybody that wants to go into Carry the Load website and donate. And again, Mayor and Council, appreciate everything you've done to support this.
Thank you, Zim.
Mayor, we're ready for a motion.
Okay, sorry. Motion from Elizabeth? Yeah?
Sure. Before I make the motion, I'd just like to make sure that Mayor and Council and everyone in this audience and folks listening at home know what an admirable organization Carry the Load is. So Carry the Load is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide active ways to honor and remember our nation's heroes by connecting Americans to the sacrifices made by our military, veterans, first responders, and their family. Carry the Load started as a single march in 2011 and has grown to over 70 rallies in 46 states. Since 2011, Carry the Load has raised $32.9 million to bring awareness, education, and continuum of care for veterans and family members of fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. In the words of one participant, it's easy to forget that Memorial Day is celebrated with family and friends and barbecue and picnics in the park, but the reason to celebrate is about remembering the folks who volunteered to give us what we have today. And so with that, I would like to make a motion to suspend the council rules of procedure, section 5.2.1, and to waive the second reading of this council proposal to allow it to be acted upon at this meeting.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And a second, council?
I want to offer the second as the co-sponsor, but I do have some remarks.
Go ahead, Gina.
We cannot put this resolution through without recognizing the contributions of Councilmember Beck. When Zim was on the council and Jungus, we had 2 veterans, and it made us look good. We had no idea that a feisty redhead would show up and continue that presence, which is so very important. As we look at war all around the world now, your service that you made makes me even more proud to call you friend and colleague. And with that, I'll offer the second.
Thank you, Gina. Council, any other discussion? Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries, and we're going to do a second motion since we're waiving the rules. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver of fees associated with the use of certain streets, including University Drive, and the use of Trinity Park, including the pavilion near the Police and Fire Memorial at 2247 West 7th for Carry the Load's Memorial Day May event on May 28th, 2022.
And a second.
Once again, as co-sponsors, Zim, I'm going to offer the second, and thank you for your contributions.
Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion passes.
Next item is 22-2134, a resolution to encourage the growth of blockchain and cryptocurrency technology companies in Fort Worth, accepting the donation of 3 Bitcoin mining machines from the Texas Blockchain Council and authorizing a Bitcoin mining operation.
Thank you, council. If I can get a motion. Oh, sorry. Well, I don't have a list of that one. No, sorry. Thomas Troncasi, one more. Sorry, Thomas. My computer doesn't have speakers, so I apologize.
Madam Mayor, council members, citizens, taxpayers, and neighbors, I want to make clear that there are a number of people that wanted to come today and speak on this specific subject. The vast majority of them can't be here because it doesn't fit their work-life balance. The number of activists that want to be here and speak on this subject are currently over at the County Commissioner's Court fighting for voting rights and defending the integrity of the system that elects each of you. What you should be doing today is taking your turn at the lectern at the County Commissioner's Court. The points that I was given and the points that I understand on blockchain, this is not the city's mission. Many of you believe in the free market and the business system spreading good business ideas. The city does not need to endorse or embrace blockchain, Bitcoin, or any type of currency that is not United States federal currency. And let me give you a couple of specific examples why. At the very least, you should table this measure and study it at least as much as you studied redistricting. Bitcoin is environmentally questionable. It may not be legal. There are liability issues if you accept machines and then down the road, what many citizens fear is that this is a Ponzi scheme, a scam, that is strangers bearing gifts, and you should beware of strangers bearing gifts. Again, it is not in the mission of the city. Can any vendors donate machines of any type of commerce? Every time somebody offers something free to the city, it is your tendency to accept it and vote unanimously for it. Can Christie's Toy Box donate 3 vending machines to propagate their business model? This particular donation and the participation of the city is not necessary. Once again, a number of your citizens who don't understand it or believe it's a scam or a Ponzi scheme that will fall apart somewhere down the road, it is not a good precedent to start taking donations of equipment and business kiosks when there's too many unknowns.
Thank you, Thomas. I can get a motion and a second, council? Thank you. Just a few comments I'll have here. I just want to thank city staff, legal department, IT department, Carla Capo in my office for thinking outside the box to make today possible. This is a very small opportunity for Fort Worth that has big possible return on investment. We are a city that's open for technology innovation, and cryptocurrency is a part of that future. These are 3 donated machines. Each machine's electricity use is the equivalent of a household vacuum cleaner. And we believe really strongly that we have to be on the forefront of what's possible, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency and innovation across this country. We are going to become the first city in the United States, the first city in the world to mine Bitcoin here on site at City Hall. And I just want to thank the staff who very methodically over several months carefully looked at this opportunity. And it's not lost on me that just this morning, Fidelity announced that cryptocurrency will be a part of their own 401k strategy. This is a part of the future, and many of us have to jump on board. I'm really proud of the city of Fort Worth. And with that, we can vote, council. Motion passes.
Next item is 22-2141, resolution adopting the Fort Worth Open Space Strategy Report and incorporating it into the comprehensive plan.
Council, if I can get a motion. Thank you. And a second. Perfect. Any discussion, council? Go ahead, Gina.
I just want to acknowledge City Manager David Cook for accepting my offer to tour my district, where you got a chance to see a lot of mostly bad stuff, and that was the way I rigged it. But luckily, because of that ride and other people joining similar discussions, not coordinated, but we're at this place where we have this policy. And so I am proud that the second location picked was in District 5, but I cannot underscore enough the importance of the District 8 people who raise money to help support this effort as well. And so that's the commentary that I have. Again, David, thank you for being open to an unusual tour.
Thank you, Gina. I've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? I'll just say thank you to city staff for getting us to this place. Obviously, we have a big bond election on May 7th, and there's a proposition that includes open space in this strategy, but we are very proud of the city of Fort Worth and, of course, our partnership with the Trust for Public Land for getting it to this place. With that, we can vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2135, a resolution adopting the City of Fort Worth Clean Fleet Policy.
Motion, council.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2136, a resolution to ratify application for and authorize acceptance of the grant for the electronic vehicle charging station grant program from the North Central Texas Council of Governments for 3 electronic vehicle charging station sites.
Got a motion, council?
I'd like to move to approve. I'd also like to thank the city staff and TPW that has worked really closely with the North Central Texas Council of Governments Transportation Department. I'd also like to thank my colleagues that sit on the RTC, Mayor Pro Tem Bivens and Councilman Moon for really advocating for Fort Worth and seeing the expansion of our electronic charging stations, which will come in handy as we just accepted our clean fleet policy. So thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. A second, council? Thank you, Michael. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Gina.
I just want to remind the staff in charge of identifying these locations that even though I'm supporting this item on the agenda today, we do need to discuss one of the 2 locations you recommended in my district because one is inappropriate. And I want to make sure that you have my input and the input from my constituents as to where we know it should be. So whoever that staff is, just know that I expect a call from whoever you are.
Thank you, Gina. Any other discussion, council? If not, please vote.
Mine is stuck.
Can you vote for Gina?
Yay, I'm voting yay, but it's stuck. Can't turn my mic off either. There it is, okay.
Motion passes.
Next item is 22-2137, a resolution to ratify application for and authorize acceptance of the grant for the Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, RAISE, grant program from the United States Department of Transportation for a grade-separated crossing of Heritage Trace Parkway over the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad.
Got a motion from Councilmember Firestone?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve, and I just wanted to state how excited I am about this, and I think it's a great development. I want to thank Burlington Northern for their contribution here and really helping to make this possible. It is a huge quality of life, positive development for those in that area, and it's just a great development, so thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. And a second, council?
I offer a second with also a word of gratitude for BNSF, who has a history of donating to this city for decades.
Thank you, Gina. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0306. Conduct a public benefit hearing concerning the following matters related to Fort Worth Public Improvement District Number 18 Tourism PID. 1, expansion of the Tourism Public Improvement District to include 1 additional hotel. And 2, the 2021-22 assessment for the additional hotel property. Adopt the attached resolution authorizing and expanding the tourism PID to include 1 additional hotel property. Approve attached revised 2021-2022 assessment roll, and adopt the attached ordinance levying special assessments on the additional hotel property for the fiscal year 2021-22. Report by city staff.
Good morning, Mayor Parker and members of City Council. My name is Crystal Hinojosa, and I serve as the PID Administrator in the Economic Development Department. The purpose of today's public hearing is to receive comments from the public on the advisability of expanding the boundaries of the Fort Worth Public Improvement District 18 Tourism PID to include 1 additional hotel property. Notification of today's public hearing was mailed to all property owners within the PID on March 25th, 2022, and published in Star Telegram on the same date in compliance with Chapter 372 of Texas Local Government Code. Section 372.0121 of the code allows City Council to include additional properties into the tourism PID so long as they meet the requirements of the code. As previously stated on the April 12th public benefit hearing, the inclusion of 4 Points by Sheraton Hotel meets the requirements of the code and therefore may be considered by council for inclusion. The total estimated cost for services and improvements for the remaining life of the tourism PID, approximately 6 years, is $27,737,196, which includes estimated costs of $3.95 million for the fiscal year 2022. Following receipt of any public comments, staff recommends that City Council close today's public hearing, approve the MNC 22-0306, adopting a resolution authorizing the expanding the tourism PID to include the above-stated hotel, approving the revised 2021 assessment roll, and adopting an ordinance levying special assessments on the additional hotel property. There is a representative with the Visit Fort Worth here to answer questions regarding the tourism PID, and I am also available. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal, for being here. Council, any questions for Crystal first? Otherwise, I'll turn to our speaker, Thomas Terlincasi. Go ahead, Thomas.
Mayor Parker and council members, for this particular agenda item, the Honorable Lon Burnham and a number of other residents of both District 9 and the greater community asked me to make a couple points with regard to this PID. For decades, even before the establishment of this particular PID, advocates for childcare and daycare services downtown have asked that in the interest of being good stewards of this money, that one of the best ways to draw more people downtown, especially post-COVID, or at least in a new COVID world, is to enhance and expand the accessibility of daycare and childcare for parents that have the opportunity to work downtown. It's pretty logical that they're going to spend more time downtown, maybe eat dinner downtown more often, maybe enjoy lunch downtown, if they were coming back downtown more often. Some tourism begins at home. We have a great city. It's beautiful. There's lots of cool things to do in every district. And one of the focuses should be bringing our own citizens to our own places of commerce. To do that, I want to strongly encourage you to earmark or establish or coach the administrators of these funds to include the expansion of services, including childcare and daycare for workers that'll be in some of these districts.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm going to motion. So, Council, we're going to motion to close the public hearing and act on the MNC.
So motion
Carrie?
to close the public hearing, and then I'll just speak some to PIDs. There's been some misinformation on PIDs over the last few council meetings, and we review PIDs annually. PIDs are a volunteer participation by taxpayers, whether it be a residence, whether it be a business, whether it be a hotel. Those dollars are not an opportunity dollar lost in the expenditure for city services. They are an added tax that these businesses or taxpayers choose to pay. And those expenses are programmed in advance on what can be they spent for, whether it be the landscaping of a median, whether it be a public fireworks display, anything that the city would typically provide. And then there are limitations in the private sector that the PID dollars may not be used for. And so we just want to clarify some misinformation that's been out there on PIDs and how they truly work, and then what expenses are programmable with those through those PIDs. So with that, my motion to expand, I move to close the public hearing, approve MNC number 22-0306, adopting a resolution to authorize and expand the tourism PID to include one additional hotel, approving the revised 2021-2022 assessment roll, adopting an ordinance levying special assessments on the additional hotel property, and directing the city secretary to record a copy of the assessment ordinance in the real property records within 7 days.
Thank you, Carrie. And a second, Council? Any other discussion? Please. It was Elizabeth. and please vote. Motion passes.
Next item is the reconsideration of ZC-22-003, located at 2501 Northwest Loop 820 Freeway, to add a conditional use permit to allow for a self-service car wash facility in E neighborhood commercial with waiver to the location of accessory uses in the front yard, site plan included, recommended for approval by the Zoning Commission, continued from April 12th, 2022 by Councilmember Flores.
Councilmember Flores?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider ZZ 22-003.
Thank you, Carlos. And second, council? Any other discussion?
Yes, Mayor, just so everyone is clear on this, the reason for the reconsideration. The Realtor representing the buyer informed me after the April 12th meeting that we had, where I continued this to the June 14th meeting, that the seller is doing a reverse 1031 process. That must close by June 6th. So my original motion date would put them past that. So hence the reconsideration.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second, council? Go, sorry.
In an abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay. So you can't second. Who wants to second for me? Thank you. Carrie, any other discussion, council? Please vote. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Motion carries.
I think we need a motion to continue the case to May 10th.
This is a second part to it. Now that we're considering, I'm going to make another motion to continue this case to May 10th.
Perfect. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Councilmember Bivens, does that work for you? Yes. Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-21-175, 4309 through 4325 Odds, East Rosedale Street, from A-5 One Family ER Neighborhood Commercial Restricted with Stop 6 overlay to PD/E Plan Development for all uses in E Neighborhood Commercial plus truck parking with development standards for setbacks and fencing, site plan included, Stop 6 overlay, recommended for denial without prejudice by the Zoning Commission.
Thank you. We have one speaker, Pastor Michael Moore. Pastor Moore.
Mayor Parker and Mayor Pro Tem Gina Bivens, to all of the other council members this morning, to the citizens of Fort Worth. My name is Pastor Michael Moore, and I reside at 1412 Lindsay Street, which is located in historic Stop 6 neighborhood. Although I may be a parrot from graduation, I'm a wildcat at heart. I live in my neighborhood because I support it. I believe in historic Stop 6. In this case that is before us has been long overdue for this vote. This is not a personal vendetta against this business owner. It's just a business that operated in a residential zone area, and he operated a commercial business. And so I'm standing here as a representative of the Historic Stop 6 Neighborhood Association to ask this council to accept the zoning commissioner's recommendation to deny this with prejudice so that this business owner can move to a commercially zoned area and continue the business that he started for his family. There may be a need for the city to look at the contamination possibility of this business, because this business has operated for such a long time. Nobody's really been monitoring where they're doing, how they're disposing of diesel fuels or any other fuels that may have been associated with this business. And so I'm asking the council to deny this, to accept the zoning commissioner's recommendation to deny with prejudice so that we can move on. At the same time, I also have a membership for our association to offer to Mr. Martinez for he can join our association as a business member so that in the future, we would like to educate businesses how to operate within Historic Stop 6. As a representative of Historic Stop 6, I'd like to say that East Rosedale is our gateway. It's the gateway to development in our city. And I feel like that stops, oh, my time is up?
30 seconds, you're good.
I got 30 seconds. We've been the stepchild, and I hope that you will be better guardians of our city than those in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Moore. That's the last of our speakers. Councilmember Bivens.
Thank you, President and Pastor Moore. This is a relatively new council, and I've not had the pleasure or the time because of COVID of taking them on the tour of Stop 6. But I'm going to share some things with you, and I hope you can go one further than the Zoning Commission came up with. We're talking environmental waste here. We're talking about a business that has caused great grief on the people who are trying to rebuild. We won that C&I grant from HUD, $35 million, and that is key to the revitalization of Stop 6. Before we started this project, we had, I think it was 247 homes built in a 10-year period. That's because nobody wanted to build housing in Stop 6. It has changed. We see a 74% increase in new housing construction. Houses are being built as large as 5,200 square feet. We have a group of people who graduated from Dunbar who want to move back to the neighborhood. We have housing that's small as 900 square feet. You can build what you want to build in Stop 6 as long as you are within the bounds of law. The idea of environmental issues is of great concern to me. I was an environmental spokesperson for TXU. We don't know what's underground there, but one thing we do know is that this company should not be allowed to continue misusing the property. There is a process, and when it comes to zoning, we have an overlay. We've been very, very diligent about how we want to rebuild Stop 6. And I am hoping that the council will agree to issue this denial with me with prejudice, because there's no place for that there. And that's my motion.
Motion and a second from Councilmember Crane. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'm really glad you brought up the environmental impacts of this particular project. Historically, we have put our most caustic uses in Black communities. That's happened since the 60s when we first recognized it as a nation. And so this is a tremendous step in the right direction of righting that wrong and not putting that burden of unclean air and dirty soil and industrial traffic on our children in Stop 6. So I look forward to voting with you on this one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion to deny passes.
Next item is ZC-22-009, 4329 East Rosedale Street from A-5/SS One Family Stop 6 Overlay to E/SS Neighborhood Commercial Stop 6 Overlay, recommended for approval by the Zoning Commission, continued from a previous meeting.
Councilman Bivers, and we have one speaker on this item, Pastor Michael Moore.
Again, I would like to state my concern about this same owner being granted the zoning change to open up a tax office that's adjacent to the property where he's been a violator for the truck lot. And if we're going to allow that, then we need to make sure that it only remains a tax office, that it does not become a truck parking lot, because that's what's happening in our community. Businesses come in, they pose to be restaurants, but in the back of their properties, they park trucks. Those trucks are destroying the streets and the mediums that the city and the state has placed in Stop 6. Our post office looks like it's, in front of it, it looks like it's just torn down signs and the curves are being ignored. These trucks drive through our communities. They have no respect for our residents. So if we're gonna allow him to turn this into a tax office, it needs to be a tax office only and not a parking lot for trucks. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Moore. I'll turn to Councilmember Bivens.
I think we have I'd like for the applicant to speak. And you are speaking on the idea of having your business, which is a tax office. Would you like to shed any light on if that involves truck parking? Yes. Please come to the microphone, and you'll need to give your name and address.
My name is Jairo Quintero. I live in 3000 Hanger Avenue, Fort Worth, Texas. Through this letter, I'm addressing you to thank you for your willingness and desire to help me. The representatives at the city level have been supporting, whom I thank for their kindness and availability. Those two cases, one of them is an income tax office, and we do have a permit for that. The other case, which is, as you mentioned, the lots that we park, we are trying to request a special parking permit. We did this last case. We were trying to request so that we can fund ourselves and be able to continue the business. And we already have those two permits, and so we can occupy those. But like I said, we were trying to get the permit. We were trying to do this last case as well. So the city recommended us to have an appointment with the council member of our district, Ms. Gina. But when we tried to request, my dad said he tried to request a meeting, but she refused and only responded with a voice message stating that she wasn't interested in meeting with us because she already denied the case. And, you know, she may have the right not to accept our appointment request, but she pretty much joined the two cases together and just denied them both. And I guess my dad felt ignored about it. And he feels a bit discriminated too. My dad considers himself an honest and hardworking person. From our small business, 8 workers depend from it to support their families. But what I want is I want to invite every single one of you to come and visit our business. And I'm not talking about looking at it through Google Images or through Google Maps or through satellite images. I want you guys to actually come in person to see what kind of hard work we really do before we're judged. We are in the best disposition to change and improve everything that is requested and demanded as of today. Due to this issue, my dad has to sell our primary residence, our home. He has 6 children, including myself, that were born here. And, you know, this business, he depends on it so that he could pay off any remaining debts that he owes. And, you know, up to this day, as of our knowledge, we didn't have a single neighbor complain about our business. Thank you for taking the time to hear my case.
Just to be clear, the question of allowing you or supporting your efforts to continue parking trucks illegally there was never on the table. And so for that, you have the no. We did not speak about the case that's on the table now, which is your request to have basically a tax office. My question to you is it just to be a tax office, or do you intend to see large trucks there?
The parking truck, they don't continue anymore. But we wanna make something nice, good business, good place. Before I buy the 2 lots, I come to the city, I show the permit. We can buy this place and continue parking the truck. They told me yes. 2 lots, 43, 13 and 43 17. Because those permit is for senior permit. They don't lose, because if you lost, we don't give it back to you.
Let me clarify. The question on the table for me is the tax office that you say you want to start.
Yes.
Will you continue allowing big trucks to park at the tax office?
No.
Okay.
We already sold, we already buy it. Another place in another city for continue my deal, my dealer, my heavy equipment. But I wanna convert all that 6 lot plus another one we will already buy it for commercial neighborhood.
Let me tell you, too often I hear from people who don't think I live in that neighborhood. I do. I am always on Rosedale because I go to the temple on a regular basis. I've seen the damage to the median. We've reported that on many occasions to TPW because the money on Rosedale was given to us by the Council of Governments. And the trucks continued to make a left turn to do a U-turn, and Pastor Moore was the one standing out there telling him, you can't do that here. And so I cannot condone the illegal parking of truck activity that you have. Now, when it comes to the tax office, I'm going to continue this case until we have a very good, thorough conversation so that we're on the same page. If I see a big truck there, and I know that it's been there for half a day or overnight, we got a problem. And so I'm willing to meet with you. Sandy, raise your hand. There she is. Talk to her right now so that we can be clear on what we're scheduling to meet about. These are 2 separate cases. I'm going to make a motion to continue. Son, do you understand? Okay. It's a 30-day continuance. I don't know the date of that, but we'll continue for 30 days. And Sandy, let's get a meeting with everybody involved, including the neighborhood, including the temple, and perhaps, Pastor Moore, you can even host it. Yeah, there are people who are very concerned about what we see now. When you drive Rosedale, before you get to the post office, it looks real bad with a bunch of overgrown weeds coming through the cyclone fence because nobody is trimming trees there because your trucks are there. People know the activity that's been going on there illegally. That has to stop. The cleanup for that has to start now, but we will talk about the tax office because if it's a tax office, we're in good standing. But if it's a truck parking and you use the sign for tax office, that will not work. And so I encourage you, get with Sandy immediately, and we'll take this matter up in 30 days. Is that okay? With that, that's my motion to continue for 30 days. What date will that be?
May 24th.
May
That'll be
24th.
May 24th. So May 24th. Now, here's the deal. You have to sign up to speak. I called you because my colleagues saw you. So Sandy will tell you how to sign up to speak so that you can have some time, okay? I wish you Godspeed. Good luck with the tax business. I don't know who's going to run that, but we'll work with you on that. So I had a second from Michael Crane, I think.
Motion and a second, council. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Good day.
Motion to continue passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item is MNC 22-0309, accept the award of grant funds from the United States Department of Treasury provided through Section 501 of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 for emergency rental assistance received through reallocation from Tarrant County and adopt attached appropriation ordinance.
Got a motion, council? And thank you. Motion a second. And any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes.
The last item is MMC 22-0316, authorized execution of a master services and purchasing agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to provide bundled tasers, body-worn camera systems, in-car video systems, interview room systems, including paraphernalias, and software support and storage using crime control and prevention district funds for the police department and the special revenue fund for municipal courts.
Thank you. We have two speakers. The first speaker is Thomas Torlankasi, followed by Adrian Smith. Thomas, you can come on up.
Mayor and council members, Adrian Smith calls me kamikaze, partly because he can't pronounce my last name, but probably partly because sometimes I do these sorts of things and they seem like I'm in my kamikaze mode. This particular measure put on this agenda at 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday is frankly outrageous. It's purposeful. It's one of the largest votes in dollar terms that you're going to make as a council. Spread out over 12 years, which usurps the authority of the next 6 city councils, since some of you will be replaced, is the first outrage. The second outrage is the $74 million projected outlay. The third outrage is I can look to my left, I can look to my right, I can look all over the room at the body cameras in the room, and none of them are on currently. Every piece of equipment in this budget, in this outlay, is controversial. It's technology, which means technology can change pretty rapidly, as the younger members of the council know, making some of the equipment and some of the contract obsolete pretty quickly. When it comes to the proper deployment of body cams, giving one company a monopoly on tasers, body cams, drones, license plates is not only not in the best interest of the taxpayers, but also highly questionable in terms of the opportunity for innovation and improvement and accountability and transparency. What's really significant about this is, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have videos of Fort Worth police officers misusing, not using, blocking, avoiding the body cameras that you want to equip them with, as well as avoiding the cop watchers who have their own equipment, their own cell phones or other video equipment in order to document what they actually do on the street. Each of you got an email from me about a Fort Worth police officer who has the name Papa Bear Camaro, who commented on a video about a wrongful arrest that the Fort Worth police officers should taser in the you-know-what the next time. Until we get a handle on this consistently bad behavior, the number of offenses on that list of 37 pages that I've shared all of those officers with you include improper use of Axon body cameras, improper use of tasers, and then there's the suspect problem of you endorsing license plates, literally creating a big brother system that we can't access the records to. Let me repeat that. All of this technology, we cannot access the records to.
Thank you, Thomas. Our next speaker is Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith, former city council candidate of District 3. I will begin what I have to say with a quote from the Texas Tribune dated July 14, 2020. The author of this particular post, Mr. Juan Pablo Garnham. And it was in reference to the CCPD funding that was to be voted on, which was voted on by the voters of this city to extend more money to the Fort Worth Police Department in their endeavors to, quote unquote, operate. So I quote, this quote is coming from our former mayor, Mayor Bessie Price. So after early voting returns are released Tuesday, Fort Worth Mayor Bessie Price said she was pleased with the renewal of the Crime Control and Prevention District, but acknowledged the criticisms of advocacy groups. As a lifelong resident of Fort Worth, I had seen CCPD in action, decreasing crime and positively impacting our community, Price said in a statement. However, I understand there are concerns about the governance of the CCPD board directors and spending of allocated funds. In the coming weeks, I will be calling on the city council to engage in conversation about the governance structure and CCPD spending. Well, we know Mayor Price is no longer the mayor. My question to this current city council is, had that conversation been held regarding the CCPD funding and what's been done with it? In 2020, they received, the Fort Worth Police Department received $85 million allocated toward the CCPD funding. $267 million was from the general fund. I told her, I added it all up to be roughly $352 million. I could be off by a little, but hey, you all get the picture. Now, you all are asking for, this particular company is asking for, well, not this particular company, but the Fort Worth Police Department is asking for another $75 million over an 11-year period for bundled tasers, body-worn camera systems, car video systems, et cetera, et cetera. So I asked the officers to my left, to my right, is anything wrong with your body camera? Is anything wrong with your body camera? Is anything wrong with the current taser you have? I'm sure it isn't. In closing, I would like to say to the citizens of Fort Worth, pay attention to what's going on. Fort Worth is for sale. There's a blank check. It's been written, and the Fort Worth Police Department has
Thank you, Adrian.
unlimited access to it.
Thank you.
Thank
That's the last of our speakers, council. I'm going to ask Chief Noakes to come to the podium to summarize the hard work the department has done over the last several months, really, to get us to today's spot. Thank you, Neil.
Mayor and council, thank you first of all for the opportunity to come speak about this very important contract. The first thing I want to do is recognize the group standing along the back wall for all that they have done to bring this to fruition. What I want everyone to understand is, first of all, we've been working diligently with our city attorney's office, with the Office of the Police Oversight Monitor, with the city manager's office, and with this council. We've had some hard conversations. We pushed back on some things here and there, but we've been able to find compromise in areas that I believe are making us see more aligned to what we're doing here. And I thank everyone so much for those hard conversations and for helping us get to where we need to be. What I want everyone to know is what we're looking for is through this process to find best practices for the use of this technology, increase safety for officers and for citizens. We're looking at enhanced training that can be specifically tailored to what we need in Fort Worth, increased accountability, transparency, and efficiency within our department. I am proud to say we will have access to upgrades in technology throughout the life of this contract. And we have been working diligently with the groups I mentioned earlier to have sometimes new and sometimes improved policies that relate to this technology. And we are absolutely committed to continuing those conversations if and when technology changes. We will have increased ability for automatic activation of body-worn cameras by officers, higher quality of evidence collection, and a way to even have an enhanced way to deal with complaints from citizens. Something else I want people to know, specifically related to the LPRs, the license plate readers. We are using these license plate readers to specifically address Class B misdemeanors and above. Not minor traffic offenses, this is another important one that was brought up. We have a very robust, very special, wonderful immigrant community in Fort Worth. What I want people to know, these are not going to be used for immigration violations. We are not using it to become an arm of the federal government to enforce immigration policies either. That's critical to understand. We're gonna be able to consolidate multiple contracts with this. And what I believe maybe I haven't done a good job of explaining initially, this is not an increase of $70+ million. If we were to change nothing, if we kept the current technology we have right now with the multiple contracts we have with Axon, starting FY23, the increase we'd see would technically be only $340,000. Because if we make no changes, the cost of our current contracts would be about $5.56 million that year. The increase is not $70 million or $74 million. It's from that 5.56 to the 5.9 we would actually be paying that first year. And our goal is, because of the bundled contracts and because of the long-term nature of this contract, to actually see a net savings over the life of the contract. We are in this for the long haul. We are being selective to be effective when it comes down to the crimes we're looking at with LPRs. We're making sure we're being very proactive going forward, talking with City Attorney's Office, with the Office of the Police Oversight Monitor, and all the city leadership to make sure these policies fit the needs of the department and the needs of the community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief Noakes. Appreciate it. I'll turn to council members for a motion and second, and then discussion. And you might stay right there, Chief, in case anybody has any questions.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Beck?
I'm not going to hold you there, so if you want to sit down, I don't have any questions, but I can't speak for everyone else. First, I want to thank you, Chief, and I want to thank everybody standing at the back of the room. I want to thank Kim Neal. I want to thank Letitia and the City Attorney's Office for really being proactive with council on this one. This is a big contract, and I don't mean just financially, I mean in what we're adding to our police force. And so taking the time and making sure that we understand what we're voting on before we have the opportunity to vote is, I think, a really great example of how council can work with not just our police department, but departments throughout the city when it comes to those big or maybe tough votes. And so thank you to everyone in the room who made that possible. I'm supporting this particular measure for several reasons. One, again, thank you for addressing our concerns. When this new technology was brought to us, we did have some council and community concerns about how it would be implemented. And instead of telling us no, you worked with us and you developed new policies and you enhanced some existing policies to really get at those concerns. And so I thank you for that. I think that's a great example, again, of how council and our police department can collaborate and how our police department has taken those concerns that either council brought or on behalf of the citizens we represent and implementing those. So you all deserve a big round of applause for that one for yourself. I think this is a great opportunity for the city of Fort Worth. It increases transparency. It takes away a lot of the human error that we see when it comes to body cam footage, whether an officer turned it off to use the restroom and forgot to turn it back on when they were going on duty. And so it gives our citizens more ease, the ability to quickly review that body cam footage. If there's a concern about the way an officer handled a particular stop or something they said, we can now go in and search for that a lot quicker. It helps us address those needs, and it helps identify officers that maybe need a little more training. And it helps clear those that were doing their job. And so I really look forward to that. I also really appreciate your willingness to work with me on the LPRs. That is something that we want to make sure we're using and we're using correctly. So I'm going to move to approve. And again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Got a motion. Can I get a second? Council, I'll turn to, I think, who wants to second? I'll get first. Go ahead, Gina. I'll second. Very good. I'm going to move down the line then. Carlos, we'll start with you.
I'm second, I'm next.
Okay, perfect, Carrie, thank you.
Just want to say that, during this discussion process on council, appreciate the police department's availability to answer questions in detail on these. A lot of these questions were more answerable, through email, and some because of the content in the information. But simply, I want to say this, and I've said it before, policies that involve, police and their interactions with the public evolve with technology as well as with improved training, and that will continue. This is not a sole reliance on technology. All these things have to come together and work together. LPRs are effective in solving violent crimes and vehicle thefts. I have spoken to officers out in the field and have seen firsthand how effective that is. And that's a great measure and crime deterrent. So I'm also supporting this vote.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Crane?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I echo what Councilman Flores said. I'm glad, Chief, that you pointed out this is not an increase in the budget. This is actually part of the budget. And we already have multiple contracts with Axon. This actually saves, and it's fiscally responsible to do this and put these all under one contract over a multiple year period. And that you clarified that the upgrades in technology will happen over time. That's important as part of this. I and Councilman Flores, we went over the day you had open at the police and used some of the stun gun and other technology, which was exciting and scary too, a little bit. But we also, the thing that's gotten lost a little bit in this is all the training that's a part of this. Real life situations, real life training that we were able to do. I was able to get on and look at someone that was committing suicide. So you got to hear it from someone that was thinking about committing suicide, but also the other side of an officer, what they were going through as part of it. And that training, I think, is imperative. That type of training across the board, all the real life situations that y'all face every single day. Appreciate that. And so with that, I will be supporting this measure.
Thank you, Michael. Councilmember Moon?
Yes, Chief, thank you for highlighting the fiscal benefits to this. You beat me to that. But, and what I'll tell you, this is great technology. And I would ask you in District 4, you're welcome to deploy this system to its fullest capability to fight crime in District 4, and I hope you'll do that citywide. The goal with this is to support police, fight crime, and augment transparency. Spoken regularly about the efforts that Fort Worth has taken as a whole over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years at this point, and I'll put our record up against anybody as far as the crime prevention programs. We've implemented the crisis intervention teams. We've added the de-escalation training, the banning of chokeholds, the ensuring that cameras turn on when a police door opens, just numerous enhancements that we have made to listen to the community. And in listening to the community, the biggest voice we heard was in July of 2020, 2 months after George Floyd, the city voted overwhelmingly, 65% to 35%, to fund police. And the only people in this room that are elected to serve are the members of mayor and council. And we are not here for self-indulgence or false representation. We are duly elected to serve the citizens, the taxpayers, the neighbors. And so with that, this is a vote to support police, to fight crime and augment transparency, and I fully support this measure.
Thank you, Carrie. Councilmember Bivens?
Thank you, Mayor. Where is the chief? I don't see him. Might want to come back this way, bring Vince with you, whoever you need to get some questions. When we talked about this during the work session recently, well, let me give you some backup. Back when I was a reporter, there were 2 signals that whenever I heard them, I was upset. One was a signal 12, which meant somebody's dead. The other was a 37, which is a shooting. It is important to me that we be able to keep cameras rolling on some of these sensitive codes, and so I had Sandy print them up for me because I'm rusty, don't have a radio anymore because y'all changed the frequency before you became chief. But I'm going to read these off to you. Signal 13, signal 14, signal 22, 24, 32, and of course 37. Those are incidents that usually can go bad pretty quickly when officers arrive because things are happening. It's very, very fluid. Do we have the capability to prevent an officer from snoozing, pausing, or turning off a camera on those specific calls?
We have talked with Axon specifically about that after you asked that question. That technology is not in place. But what we have done is made sure in our policy we've included when anyone is on a call that might end at any kind of evidence collection, any kind of an investigation, and those signals you're talking about, those calls, those are absolutely in that realm. They are required to keep their cameras on unless there's something that falls within the policy, such as sharing privileged private information about a citizen, something like that, that they are able to hit that sleep mode or hit the mute button, but still keep the camera rolling. So they are required to keep that camera on while they're on a scene like that. If there's anything that they're going to be encountering that might end up in some kind of evidence for that investigation.
And so that means you're able to give that directive?
Absolutely, it's in policy.
Okay. I support this. I also want to thank your officers for coming to the aid of my neighbor. Recently, you don't know about this, but there was a crazed man bamming on a wall. I thought he was in my house. We had a mother, 2 children huddled in a locked room. Husband talking with his gun through the door, and the key word is his gun. When he called, he let officers know, I have a gun. When I called, y'all know I pack. And so I let them know that I had a gun as well. And that made officers get there quicker than usual. And we were able to have a peaceful resolve. I want to thank you for that. And also thank you for having that directive in place, because those calls that I just read off to you, that's where things always go bad. And so I hope that we can stress the importance of keeping cameras rolling. Also, I want to remind you of what happened with Jaquavian Slayton. That's when Fort Worth PD showed and proved that they could release those videos sooner. And that was a Sunday evening shooting. I was on the ground talking to reporters saying, yeah, we're going to get the videotape. I had no idea. Officers really didn't think they were ready, but you did. And that shows a level of transparency as a desire. So I support this, but I want to make sure officers know what's at stake if they accidentally, whatever, turn that camera off, because we have to be transparent. And you've got my support on this.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Vince. We got the bus out of my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Gina. Councilmember Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. And just want to say just a few words really briefly. Thank you, Chief, and Vince and Kim and Letitia for, having the tough conversations with me. My original concern was, having the funding move forward without the policy, and talking through some of the, tough challenges that may be both perceived and reality in our community and as a council. So thank you, first of all, for having those tough conversations. It certainly helped us get to a yes on this. I particularly want to just highlight that I think that this package provides a level of assurances both for our officers and for our community, especially in our day-to-day stops that we have and the day-to-day work that officers do in our communities. And I appreciate that that's in policy, that there's expectations and also assurances put in place to make sure that we have all the evidence that we need that keeps both our residents and officers safe, when unfortunate events happen. So thank you for that. And then in regards to license plate readers, thank you also. I know that there were some concerns mentioned by Councilmember Nettles with regards to which misdemeanors would be leveraged for the technology and scanned for. So thank you for addressing those concerns. Overall, I think this technology is really important for our community, and it's a positive step in a positive direction. And I know that that's what we're all working towards. And so thank you, and I'll be supporting this today, and just appreciate the level of leadership and vision that you have, and for working with us on a number of issues that we face. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. I don't think anybody else has anything to say. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Hit your thing.
All right, thank you. I truly was one of the council members who had great concern with this contract and technology. And before I get too deep into my thought pattern, I want to address a few things that were said today. Number one, I want to address Mr. Thomas because I feel your frustration on having a vote like this on a Tuesday morning where most of the community couldn't come out and speak at it. One of the things that happened with this vote happening today is the vote was going to come early, if I'm not mistaken. And we requested that they present to work session and give us an opportunity to talk through these ordeals. And so that vote was pushed back until today. And so that's one of the issues of why that vote is today. But I do share some of your concern on that. The next thing I want to acknowledge, it is very heart-wrenching and disappointing to hear an outgoing council member always talk about the access of defunding the police when we talking about funding the police. And I just kind of want to give some text to that. When those community members talked about defunding the police in the 2020, they was not talking about getting rid of the police department. They was not talking about taking money from the budget. What they were requesting is that we channel some of the money that goes into barricades and militarizing the police department and take that money and put it into community policing, to put more money into supporting activists and groups like Stop the Violence, groups like Am I My Brother's Keeper, groups like where I went Saturday and dealt with boys to men's group. It was about 100 little boys in there from ages 12 to 18 needing people to come and speak to them. They needed to be funded. They needed to be fed. When they talked about defunding the police, that's what that meant, not taking the money from the police department. So I would ask, our fellow council members that will be here after June to not always talk about defunding the police when we're talking about trying to fund the police. It makes it really hard when I go into my community and tell them, this is good for us, but we keep on putting those two together. So I wanted to bring that to a light because that's frustrating. The other thing I want to do is talk about the challenges with this technology. And I'm glad, Chief, that you did address some of the challenges, that the issues that I had about the automatic readers for the license plate. And I'm grateful that we did get to some of those. But one of the things I still have an issue with, and it's just something I want to tell the officers and you, when I kind of Google and look up misdemeanors for B, they come up as DWIs, terrorist threats, invading arrest on foot, harassment, criminal trespass, possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces, reckless driving, theft between $100 to $750. And when you talk about $100, you may have a family in my neighborhood who can't buy formula and diapers, and some they go in Walmart and they steal it. And when they pass by a police car, and they might not be someone who's driving reckless because they're drunk, but it may be just a simple fact that they wanted to provide for their family. I want to make sure that our officers have the discretionary, that when they are pinged and they realize and find out what that misdemeanor is, that when they approach that car, they have a different mindset, that this is not a criminal. I mean, maybe a criminal, but not someone who is can really hurt our citizens. And I think that we should make sure that officers understand that that period when they walk to a car, because that still concerns me with the misdemeanor B. But I want to also thank you for the body cameras. We do need this technology to increase our body cams, where as Jen and I went back and forth about the sleep mode and the off mode. And I want to, because it's important that when you are encountering someone, because sometimes you don't know if it's going to end bad or if it's going to end good, that those cameras are on. And that we are teaching and training our officers to make sure that, and I saw the policy that says your camera shouldn't be off unless you're leaving for work. And it gives an example of when it should be in sleep mode. And I want to make sure that is given to all officers and they understand the importance of this contract and how to make sure that this transparency works. And I heard you say earlier when you came to the mic that this contract was to make sure that our officers were safe, make sure that it was transparent, and to make sure that the community was safe. Well, I heard another council member say everything but community safe. And I want to reiterate that this is also to make sure that our community is safe as well. And so with that, those are my concerns. And I want to challenge our residents as well to make sure that you stay in tune, you stay alert. If you have any questions, especially my community, about this contract or this vote, please reach out to my office. I want to make sure, and we'll set meetings up with the chief, and hopefully we can come out and speak to our neighborhood to make sure that everyone understands and feels that we're going in the right direction. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Moon, did you have further comments?
And I apologize for speaking twice, but I was invoked, and so I just want a chance to rebuttal being revoked. And I think as a city, we have been directed to fund police. I want to be real clear that the narrative prior to July 20th of 2020 was to take money from police officers, and the city supported overwhelmingly not to do that. And we've seen measures over the last few weeks where there was more focus on police expenditures, and some were supported, some were not. I'm glad to see that this is a good support for police and likely to pass overwhelmingly, but I just want to clarify, we've got to, as a city, continue to fund police and follow the messaging from our constituents that was received in that vote. And crime is a concern, Chief. And it's something that we need to address, and we are seeing the largest victims of crime are people of color. And I hope that we will enforce these measures, like I said, to augment police transparency and to fight crime overall.
Thank you, Carrie. Councilmember Williams. Adrian, don't from the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to now. You know, this rhetoric around defunding police is harmful to our community. You know, when I walk around, and I've walked thousands of doors in my neighborhood, and I still do, I don't hear folks talk about defund the police. I hear them talk about, you know, what does it take for my neighborhood to be safe, and when can I have a seat at that table? And so I think that's really important that we have those kind of conversations and that we don't throw around, you know, rhetoric that's harmful and toxic, not only to this body, but also to our city, and that promotes division instead of unitedness. We can get a lot more to get done together when we sit at the same table and have tough conversations. And, you know, that's really harmful.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Chief, putting you on the spot today. Y'all have done an excellent job working with not only council members, but every single department on city staff to get us here. I think we were lost, and we didn't mention this. Marshal's office is also a part of body cams, which we're really, really thankful for. So thanks to the Marshal's office is also for stepping up here as well. This contract is really about being good tax stewards for our taxpayers, and also better transparency, and make sure all officers have the very best technology available to them to do a very difficult job. We are thankful for each of you to serve the city of Fort Worth, and we hope that we're doing our part today. It looks like we're a 9-0 vote, but I'm never going to count it until we get there, okay? I've got a motion and a second, and with that, council, we can vote.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. And I think that's the last of our items, am I right?
Yes, Mayor.
Excellent, council. Meeting adjourned.